In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared, and we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
What do you say? What's happening, guys? What is going on? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to Blunt Politics. I'm Boston Brian. Gonna be a special show for you today. Really excited to have a chat. Be joined again by Michael Fanone. We're gonna be catching up with him in just a little bit, so I'll be looking for him to be popping in. So hit that like button. I do appreciate you guys. It'll give us a little time to say hi to the chat, bring everybody in, get everybody acquainted, get everybody comfortable, get your beers nice and cold, right? Light whatever that whatever you're smoking, it would be great. But what do you say we bring in the chat, say hi to people? Happy May Day, everybody. Happy May Day, May 1st, 2026. You made it through another month, right? You didn't think you were gonna, but you did. You did make it through another month. And hopefully, Blunt Politics had a little input in getting you through those tough days. You know what I mean? So what's going on, Will? What's going on, Kyle? How are you doing, Regina? What's going on, Vasantha? What's up, Corrine? What's up, Jeff? So just right off the bat, I'm going to ask everybody today to refrain from super chats, super stickers, Venmos, anything like that. In accordance with May Day, I don't want to be contributing to, Google. I was made aware this morning that's probably the right way to go. I do agree. So we've taken the Venmo down. I appreciate you guys that continuously support the channel, but I don't think it's right for everybody else out there to be sacrificing, not going to work, not getting paid for their day at work, to in any way be contributing. So hopefully you guys, you can respect that. Milestones are still okay. Milestones, there's no financial, exchange there. So if you guys reach a milestone today, feel free to throw that in the chat, and we'll make sure to highlight those at the end of the show as well. But just in like I said, in the corners. What's up, CSL? What's up, brother? Bringing you YouTube and Twitch in a few minutes. Awesome. Appreciate you, my man. Couldn't thank you enough. Very much appreciate you and everything that you do. Everybody else over there in Sparkling Nation as well. Tell Hal I said hello. Please tell Rob I said hello as well if they're still on. Appreciate them and everything that they do. What's going on, Salt of the Red Earth? Salt of the Red Earth is going to be our bartender for today in there in the chat. So if anybody needs a beer, if anybody needs a drink, you're going to be calling on Salt of the Red Earth. Just let them know what you're drinking, and we'll see if we can cook it up for you. So I appreciate you. What's up there, Tom? I appreciate you. I appreciate you, my friend. Please tell Victoria I said hello. What's going on, DPD? What's up, Alan? What's going on, Wes? How are you? What's up, Gamer? What's up, Yakov? Appreciate you, my friend. What's going on, Roxanne? Yeah, no, I know, but I appreciate you making it through another month. We we're gonna kick this one off right, hopefully. So we got a few minutes to kill before we are joined by Michael Fanone. So get comfortable. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got a few videos. Actually, I got a ton of videos pulled up that I was gonna try to get through with Michael when he pops up. But I did recognize that this was on. Let me see if I can throw this on your screen while we're killing a few minutes here. This was I think Status Quo was live for their May Day protest. I'm not sure where they were. I think this one is New York City, if I'm not mistaken. I think there may be one in Washington as well. I know they're all over, but I'm just talking about where this coverage is. Let me throw this on the screen for you guys. Bang, bang, boom. Throw this on. Is it in there? No, it's not. Now it is. How you doing? There you go. There you go. Just seeing what's going on here. See if we can check in. This is breaking May Day protesters arrested at Wall Street entrance. So I believe there was a couple protesters that had themselves chained together, if I'm not mistaken. And apparently they were removed. So let's see if we can just dive in here. I'll keep my eye on the the backstage to see when Mike pops in. Appreciate you guys.
The problem problem isn't the wrong leaders, it's not enough of them. Solidarity forever.
I think her megaphone needs some new batteries. Let's see. I think if you let me scroll back a couple minutes.
More police arriving.
Distant parties. We don't care if that make $5 million or more, and that's not a big ask. That's not a big ask. It's just about being humane. It's just about being empathetic. Like, come on. They won't even feel it. Their children won't even feel it. So we're out here, we're fighting. We fight in the rain, we fight in the snow, we fight in the sun, because we care. And our people, our communities are crumbling. You have the elderly, you have the HIV positive people that are losing their housing, they're losing their health care. And if you don't have health care coverage and you're HIV positive, that's a death sentence. And who decides who lives or dies? Who decides who eats or starves? It's not right.
And all this is happening as we're spending $2 billion a day to bomb Iran.
Correct. And
what's going on, guys? Welcome in. I appreciate you for joining me. We're just checking in on some of the May Day protest here as covered by Status Coup. You can see people dressed in a lot of clown uniforms. You can see the clown noses. Billionaires are clowns, as you can see them holding the signs. Taxing the rich is obviously the sentiment, is the rhetoric coming from this intelligent woman here who understands where the money should be going and who should be taxed. And as she said there, their kids won't feel it. Their kids' won't feel it. All it's going to do is make the society better. So as you'll come in, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're just killing a little bit of time. We'll be joined in just a few minutes by Michael Fanone. Very excited for that chat. A lot to go over, lots to talk about. A bunch of clips I have pulled up to kind of get his take on. So again, we're just kind of shooting through a few of these clips here of the May Day protest, killing a little bit of time. There's also another Persia Boy drop. So we'll get into that, another Lego video, see if we can get into that while we're waiting. But here's just a little bit more from this May Day protest. I think this one is in New York City. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, because I know there's a bunch of them going on. I think this is in New York City in front of the Wall Street building, if I'm not mistaken.
Gas prices, taxes, and it's just red habits. Do we buy our kids new shoes because the shoes they have are too small? You can't do it. Rents are too high. Food is outrageous. Gas prices, taxes, and it's just not fair. It's just really just simply not fair. And
again, where's she wrong? You know, where's the lies? What's up, Sparklers? What's going on, guys? What's up, Dame Dog? What's up, peeps? Appreciate you. What's up, Slightly Mad Mom? How are you? Blue State Champion, welcome in. What's going on, guys? Sammy, how are you? What's up, Ellen? What's up, Alyosha? I see you over there on Twitch. What's up, Woke Antifa? How are you? Pat, how are you? Narachi, how are you? What's up, Liberal Dan? Good to see you, my friend. Iowa Guy, what's going on? Lisa, how are you? Patrick, what's up, my dude? In case anybody missed it, happy May Day to everybody. We've taken the Venmo down today. Please, no super chats, no super stickers, nothing that would contribute in any way to Google or any other platform that they take a cut of. So, we're gonna go through today with no clothes on. We're gonna do it today butt naked and raw. As everybody else who's taking the day off, who's fighting the good fight. Nothing will be achieved without sacrifice. So, that's just kind of where we stand on that. But again, we're just kind of killing a little bit of time until Michael Fanone joins us at about 2:30ish. So let's just check back in here. And like I said, there's another Lego drop too if we have enough time to dive into that before Mike gets in here. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Hit that like button. I'm Brian. This is Blunt Politics, and this is a little bit of Status Quo's coverage of the May Day protests.
Challenge to the existing parties. We don't care if you're a Democratic, Republican, Working Families Party. We need action. We need people. We need our bills passed. Governor Hochul, she says she cares. When she did her State of the Union address, she didn't talk about housing. She didn't talk about. She talked about building houses, but she didn't talk about people that are rent burdened. She didn't talk about people that our kids are overdosing. She didn't talk about street violence. So, like, does she really know what the people need?
Going to skip around in this coverage a little bit.
And reminder, we're going to be live throughout the day on May Day. Here in New York City, we're going to be live from Chicago. My colleague JT Siskowski will be live coming up around 2 o'clock Eastern. Then there's a bigger protest here in New York City around 4 o'clock Eastern. We'll be live. And we also might be live in Minneapolis around 5 o'clock Eastern. So we're going to have May Day covered like a glove. This costs a lot of money to do this on-the-ground reporting, you know. Frankly, let's face it, folks, we got a digital diarrhea out there. There's way too much content. Everybody, their mother and their dog has a YouTube channel, a TikTok, and is suddenly an influencer. But how many of them are actually out on the ground with the people showing you?
I think just after this, he talks about the people that was sitting there in the chains, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. I think this was, oh yeah, here you go right here. You can see the people in the chains just here in the background. I think they have, I don't know if it's real chains or if it's just kind of mock chains there, but they're, you know, obviously a symbolic gesture sitting in front of the doorway. And I believe as we were just coming into this coverage, they were talking about how those two protesters were arrested. But, you know, I could be mistaken on who the two people were, but that's the best. That's my best guess as who they were talking about. It's the only two people that I saw. You can see a few officers standing around here. One looks like he's kind of standing in the same doorway. Not sure if this is also an officer or not. But don't seem to be doing much at this point. But obviously, at some point, they got sick of them sitting there and did have them removed. Let's go live, see where they are. Looks like they're kind of on commercial break as far as coverage is concerned.
This is what matters. And we're not a one-trick pony. We've been covering ICE terrorism across the country in L.A., Alligator Alcatraz in Florida, New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, Charlotte, D.C. We're working on a documentary right now based on our reporting. We've been covering the Epstein scandal. I've covered Flint and the water crisis cover-up for a decade. And we're getting back on the ground as much as we can. But without more funding, we're kind of, you know, restricted. So please, if you can support us as low as $5 a month. It makes a huge difference. We're shutting down now. You'll see us over in Chicago. Thanks for watching.
So it looks to be like an all-day affair as far as that coverage is concerned. You heard him say that there was going to be even a later protest in New York City, one in Chicago. I'm sure they're taking place all throughout the country, but I'm sure they're a little limited on how many they can cover themselves there. So, you know, shout out to Status Quo for doing what they do and making sure that they're on the ground reporting and, you know, getting the coverage out there of people that are, you know, speaking up, using their God-given rights as Americans to get out there and protest what they feel is necessary to protest. But let's see here. I just wanted to show you guys this as well. Again, while we're just kind of waiting for Mr. Fanone to join us. This was the latest of the Persia Boy drops that I could find. You know, I'm not going to brag or anything, but, you know, Persia Boy did, in fact, like one of my reels that I reposted. It was just one of his videos, so I can see why he liked it. But I did kind of get a kick out of it as to like how much we've been playing his videos and how many of these Lego videos we've gone through. So to see him on Instagram liking that I posted his video was a little surreal, I gotta say. But he actually did an interview too. You know, I'm a little hesitant to put it on the show, to tell you the truth. But here's the latest. The latest Persia Boy Hemet drop Lego video. This is already about the May Day distress, May Day protest. So again, as we're just kind of waiting for Mr. Fanone to pop in, let's see if we can just check this out real quick. I appreciate you guys. My name's Brian. This is Blunt Politics. I appreciate you if you're just joining us for the first time. If you're coming from, you know, the Sparkle universe, if you're coming from Michael Fanone's chat, if you're coming from anywhere else, checking this out, giving us the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. You know, happy May Day. Thank you for being a part of the opposition. Thank you for being a part of the resistance. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Again, this is just the latest Lego video drop here about the May Day protest called May Day Distress. Let's see if we can take a look.
Yeah. May Day distress. The people awake. May Day distress. May Mayday distress. Shut it all down. No work, no stress.
I mean, you can tell when the OG's doing it, right? I mean, there's a lot of copycats out there, a lot of fakes. And again, some of them are okay. Some of them are, good enough to play. They get the point across, they get the message across, if you will. But you can always tell when it's like a Persia boy. I know Tiff in there is very up on a few more of the studios, a few more of the accounts as well. But, you can tell when the OG's putting it out there.
Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Workers rising up, billionaires in the mess. Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Burn the system down, we taking no less. Mayday distress.
We're clearly representing, the workers marching across the different cities in the United States. Looked like that last one was New York. A little bit hard to tell. I'm not sure what monument that's supposed to be depicting in the background, but you can clearly see what's supposed to be blue collar people, construction workers, people with, flannels on, people of that ilk marching in the streets, calling for the rise in taxes on the billionaire class, which they should be doing.
Mayday distress. Stand with our red, sacred defense.
Yeah. Tomorrow we strike streets on fire. No work, no school, no shopping, feel the power. Epstein class laughing while the people starve. Sending our kids to die for their endless war. They bomb Iran, they cage our kids while warehouses full and the rich get rich. Mayday distress. This the
I mean, again, where's the lies? Where's the I don't even see. People love to call this propaganda. Where's the propaganda? You know what I mean? Where is the propaganda in this? Where are the lies? Where is anything that we ourselves as Americans have not been saying, calling for quite some time now? And again, being an Iranian American himself, it kind of, gives a little background as to why he's so up to speed, up to date on what's being said in the United States, and a little bit about his background now. So, but where are the lies? Please, somebody tell me what's the lie, what's the propaganda? Because what I'm seeing right now is the truth.
we stand. Workers of the world, we bringing the end.
Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Shut it all down. No work, no stress. Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Workers rising up, billionaires in the mess.
From the factories to the fields, from LA to Tehran. Same enemy, same fight, same plan. They want us divided, they want us on our knees. They gutted the Voting Rights Act, now they stealing our voice. Supreme Court sold out, Trump.
Wow, already talking about the Voting Rights Act, already talking about the Supreme Court. I mean, it's just, again, find the lie, find the propaganda, and then let me know in the chat, please.
Should say vaccines, but Mayday strong. We bringing the squeeze. Trump and the elite shaking, watching the streets flood. People got nothing left but pure blood. Redistribute the wealth, but watch it all burn. This the real revolution, it's your turn. Yeah. Mayday. Distress signal. We the people.
No more lies.
No more wars.
No more wars. We rise. Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Shut it all down. No mercy, no rest. Mayday distress. Mayday distress. Stand with our red, sacred defense. Mayday distress. Mayday distress. The empire falling, hear the people scream. We the people rising. This is our dream.
Sacred defense.
So again, the latest drop there by Persia Boy, going after the Mayday distress, the Mayday protests. Clearly, again, some references to Epstein, obviously the billionaire class, the taxes. I know the taxes was a lot of, the focus of one of their earlier videos, one of the other videos that we've been talking about as well. But it's just, it's crazy how quick they put the information in there. And again, I challenge people to be like, I challenge people to tell me where the propaganda lies in as far as those are concerned. To the point where a lot of people consider those almost news, right? And I'm not willing to go that far. You know what I mean? I still live somewhat in reality, but again, it's difficult to tell people that it's not, because a lot of it is just what we're saying here. It's just a lot of it is what's being reported on in the news and the breaking news and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But, as far as those coming out and people digging those, there's it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all, I'll just say. But, again, as we're just kind of waiting for Mr. Fanone to join us here, we're going through just a couple of these clips that I have pulled up, killing a little bit of time here. There was another dumb one that I saw from this schmuck. Again, you don't have to see his face or anything like that, but we've talked endlessly about the special elections. We've talked endlessly about the horrendous polling numbers of Donald Trump, whether it be on the economy or just in general as president at this point in time. But to see, he's so living within his own reality at this point that he's still willing to go on places like Newsmax and to say that he has the best poll numbers he's ever had. And again, we've talked about the plan and the bullshit, and kind of the Supreme Court rulings that they're trying to affect midterm elections and the redistricting, what's going on in Florida, what's going on in Texas, and what these other GOP senators are trying to do in their states, based off of the recent Supreme Court ruling. But Donald Trump here trying to say that, it's a problem that his name isn't going to be on the ballot for midterms, right? He says, it is a problem that I'm not on the ballot. Everyone says if I was on the ballot, would win in a landslide. Again, he says, I have some of the best poll numbers I've ever had. How delusional do you have to be to, at this point in time, right? A guy that the GOP and Donald Trump screamed about, yelled at from the fucking highest peaks they could possibly scream from about Joe Biden, his poll numbers, the economy, yada, yada, yada. Donald Trump has far surpassed anything along those numbers, along those lines. It's horrendous at this point. What have we seen? Like 32s, 33s, right? As far as percentages and approval, it's hit the floor as far as that's concerned. So to have him out here on Newsmax telling people he's got the best poll numbers he's ever had, the fucking GOP hasn't won a special election in I don't know how many months. They've seen I don't know how many different districts around the country flip from either, red to purple or purple to blue as far as elections are concerned. So the fact that he's still out here, I won't even play it. I'm not even I won't subject you to the nonsense, but you can see there in the quotes what he said. But I mean, it's not working. Much along the lines of like how his market manipulations have stopped working to a large extent. How he tries to put out on his Truth Social that everything's fine with the Iran war, and we'll go over some of this with Michael Fanone when he joins us. But the fact that he's still out there trying to manipulate the market, we haven't seen that really. We talked about the other day how much the price of gas has gone up just in the gas station across the street, and then you guys filled me in the chat that wasn't even that bad compared to what you guys are paying in some places around the country. Put that in the chat as well. Wherever you're watching from, let me know what you guys are paying, for gas. Let me know what you're paying for a gallon of gas, because some people may not realize how bad others have it. Right. I mean, it's gotten really, really bad in some places, all places, but, compared to where it was. But some places it's astronomical, obviously out west being one of the, the main issues out there. But, the fact that we still have to talk about him going out there and, people like, what's this lady's name? Greta Van Susteren. Is that her name? Not pushing back, not being like, well, I've seen all the polling that apparently you've seen, and I've seen nothing to suggest that you have the best polling numbers by any stretch of the imagination on any metric, by any metric that you could possibly pull up. It's just, again, it's comical in some ways, but obviously it's so dangerous that, you need to take it seriously, and it's something that you need to talk about. Here's another one of these, like, just unbelievable pieces of propaganda and sycophancy. That just goes to show where the media lies today. This was Peter Ducey, and again, instead of asking difficult questions and follow-ups, instead of pushing the White House, instead of pushing Donald Trump to give answers as opposed to these lies and the propaganda that he spews, obviously compared to what he says and what we look at in reality, we can see the discrepancies. But you get Peter Ducey, posting shit like this. And again, he's talking about the black granite that has been put down apparently by Donald Trump himself with his own hands, got down on his hands and knees and installed this black granite, if you ask him. But this is just like what the media does. This is like the sycophancy. This is like the ass kissing, the boot licking. This is what you have to show now in order to keep yourself in the White House press corps, in order to keep yourself on the right side of Donald Trump, the right side of Caroline Leavitt, the right side of the White House in general. This is the shit that you have to post. I mean, just look at how cringe this is. And I posted underneath it, I said, what a pathetic loser you are. How do you look at yourself in the mirror after being this big of a cuck? You know what I mean? And a few people seem to have liked that one. But here's Peter Ducey just with a quick post of him just, applauding the great work that Donald Trump has done as far as construction at the White House. Meanwhile, it looks like a big golden piece of shit. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, it looks like a giant golden piece of shit. But, I'll let you guys be the judge of this one.
All right, I'm just leaving the Oval Office. This is a first. President Trump, I was just told, has not even walked on the new.
Oh my God, he's not even walked on this yet. I'm walking on this black granite before, and I'm surprised he picked black. It surprises me that he did pick black. I'm surprised he didn't go with the white granite, based on some of the things that we know and some of the shit that he said. But anyway, I'm walking on this the first time. It's the Donald Trump's fucking fat ankles haven't even touched this black granite yet, and I'm so blessed and I'm so humbled that I could do that. Like, shut the fuck up, douchey. I can't stand these fucking
Black granite that is lining the rose garden here. So the president was just telling us about this. I didn't know that I was going to get to.
Was he just telling you about that? He wasn't telling you about how the fuck we could get our ass out of this war in Iran, right? I mean, he wasn't talking about how we could, further assist, our allies, Ukraine, in their war against Russia. He wasn't talking about, I don't know, what's going on in Africa. He was talking about the black granite. You sure he wasn't talking about the ballroom or the fucking, or the pool that he's trying to make more blue? Like, Jesus Christ. Do these people understand? Do they hear themselves at night when they go home? Like, how do you go home and be like, wow, that's a piece of content I can be proud of? Like, Jesus Christ.
First person doing this today. But a top Trump aide described it to me.
Look at him. He's like in shock. He's in awe. Oh my God. Yeah, it's a floor. Holy shit, it's granite. Like, people actually did work. They sweat. They may have bled putting this in. Like, he can't imagine a hard day's work. So to him, it's just like, it's magic, poof, snap your fingers and the fucking black granite's down there. You know what I mean? I'd like to see the crew that put that in there. I think the MAGA would probably be surprised at some of the crew that put there. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of last names that they didn't like, they didn't agree with.
To a million years. And this is it. I'm going to try my hardest not to scuff up the floor before the president comes out for his first ever walk on this.
Yeah, too bad. It already smells like shit now. All right. You already walked on it. You already got your shit stains all over it. Too late. Donald Trump's going to have to come in and follow in your shit stained footsteps after that, because it's just, these people, again, it's just so frustrating, so irritating, these people, that they don't see how, like, ridiculously fucking disgustingly creepy and, like, I don't know, cringe they look when they do this shit. But again, it is the only way that they can keep themselves in the White House press pool. It is the only way that they can keep themselves in, within the proximity of power to Donald Trump. And of course, this is exactly what nepotism looks like. Steve Douchey wasn't this guy's father. You can be damn sure he wouldn't be doing this as a job. But what else we got here? We only got a couple minutes left before Michael Fanone joins us, so not a ton of time to get into much. But there was this. I'll talk to him about this as well, to dive into the corruption angle as well. Let me throw this on there. Your browser's lost connection. Try screen share. Try sharing your screen again. Now, why the hell would that happen? Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, we don't need audio. But this says Trump's sons cash in on dad's war with mega drone deal. And again, I don't know if this is on top of the $24 million deal that Don Jr. and Eric were a part of. I don't know if this is on top of the $620 million deal that a Don Jr. backed company got, per the Pentagon. But again, them just cashing in on their dad, not only being president, but starting a war, right? Which is even worse. Not only are you profiting off of your dad's presidency, but you're profiting off of the fact that your dad has started a war. So now you're a war profiteer off of the backs of the people that are dying, the men and women in our armed forces that have paid the ultimate price, that laid their lives down for this needless, senseless, illegal, unconstitutional war. But don't worry, Don Jr. and Eric are profiting fucking handsomely from this. They're going to be laughing all the way to the bank, while everybody else is meeting those caskets at the planes to receive the dead soldiers. Don Jr. and Eric are fucking laughing their asses all the way to the bank. So don't you worry. And again, this goes on to just talk about how, they're set up in the drone company. And I'll see if I can go into this a little bit with Mr. Fanone when he gets here. But, just to dive through this a little bit, the Guardian 2 is a low-cost, semi-autonomous, high-speed counter-drone interceptor purpose-built for action in the Middle East to defend against Iranian Shahed-type attack drones. So, it's almost like this was purposely done to make sure that companies just like this could profit, right? Like, your drone is specifically built for use in the Middle East to protect against Shahed drones, Iranian Shahed drones. And your father just happens to be the fucking asshole in charge that decided to go along with Benjamin Netanyahu to perpetrate this war. And you just want me to believe that there's like no connection, right? There's just nothing to see here. Look the other way. There's no corruption. Like, come on. what are we doing here? And again, I still haven't determined. Well, I haven't read through this because I wanted to dive through it with you guys, but I haven't determined. I'm damn sure that it's on top of the $620 million deal that a Don Jr. backed company got from the Pentagon. I'm just not sure if this is the exact $24 million deal with Eric that was just recently announced, or on top of that even further. So again, it goes on to discuss, I think it's Powerous. Yeah, a Powerous spokesperson declined to go into the detail of the deal, saying the company does not comment on specific sale discussions or prospective customers. We don't comment on any contract discussions or procurement relationships. And again, that is the company here. The deal was sealed, after a successful demonstration at a facility in Arizona. He added, the deal marks the start of his first weapons procurement contract with the U.S. military. What the fuck does Eric or Don Jr. know about drones, the Middle East, war, anything like that? But nope, all of a sudden they're just, they're profiting handsomely. Don Jr.'s, it says here, Donald Trump's elder sons, Don Jr. and Eric, joined the board of a drone maker, Powerous, after a golf club company they backed merged with it in March to take it public. Powerous, based in West Palm Beach, the home of Trump International Golf Club, now stands to gain from its links to the First family. The company, only founded last year, announced that it had struck a deal to sell an undisclosed number of interceptor drones to the Pentagon. So again, people that don't know what the fuck they're doing as far as the Trump family in drones, again, military tactics, war in the Middle East, a company that was only founded last year. So how well tested, right, could these fucking products actually be? How good could they actually be? Again, people that have been in this business, people that have been in the military game, in the fucking, the drone game for years now, that again, trying to catch up with the technology, trying to perfect the technology still. But we're supposed to believe that Don Jr. just happened to meet some guy because of a fucking golf course deal, that now all of a sudden that their company's the best, they have the best product, and it has nothing to do with the fact that their father is president of the United States. Right. Yeah, no. Not buying it. Sorry, not buying it. But, again, this goes in line with all of the other corruption that we've seen, whether it be the NFTs, the crypto scams, the $10 billion lawsuit Donald Trump has with the IRS. You name it, he's probably done it. The gold watch, the sneakers, the perfume, the fucking cologne, all of it, right? We were worried about Jimmy Carter and his peanut farm, right? Donald Trump learned that in his first administration how to get around all this bullshit. And now he learned in his second administration who he had to put into what positions to make sure that this wasn't a problem, to the point now where he's out there in the Oval Office, just out there proudly talking about how there's PGA events at his Doral fucking golf course, right? At his Doral Golf Club, which again, he's going to profit from. Not only that, but he was, we've also talked about his connections with Liv, who I think is also having an upcoming tournament at one of his golf courses as well. But he's just openly, freely talking about that to the press in the Oval Office. Like, that's where we are. That's how normalized this has become. The corruption, the fraud is so blatant, in your face, excused by his administration and people in it, that they're free to talk about it. The same reason that, like, Pete Hegseth has that fucking arrogance about him, that stupid smirk you want to fucking slap right off his face, right? Same thing with Pam Bondi or Marco Rubio or fucking Scott Bessent, who, again, nobody in this world will ever convince me that Scott Bessent isn't an old woman. Sorry, not sorry. But these fucking people, that's why they have that arrogance about them. Because when they look to their left and they say, who's running the DOJ? Oh, okay, it's a sycophant in Todd Blanche. Okay, who's running the FBI? Okay, it's a sycophant in Kash Patel. Okay, who's got power of the House right now? Okay, it's the Republicans. Who's got power of the Senate right now? Okay, it's the Republicans. Obviously, Donald Trump as the president. They got the Supreme Court. They got the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth. I mean, it's crazy, but that's why you see that air of arrogance from these fucking assholes and dickheads when they get in front of cameras, when they get in front of Congress. That's why they feel so comfortable. But I did hear there he is. There's my friend. What's going on, brother? I'll bring you right in. Let me add you in here. What's going on? How are you? Busy day for you?
Man. It was a little busy day, but I was hanging out with our mutual friend, Ken Casey.
How's he doing?
He's doing great.
He's been putting in a lot of work. Whether it's, at his concerts or, meeting up with different creators and speaking to different accounts and, doing the right thing, speaking up for the right reasons. You yourself, a huge warrior in the game, a lot of respect for what you've been doing. A huge congratulations, first and foremost, on your success on your YouTube and I'm sure, your other platforms as well. But last I checked, you were creeping up on 550K over there on YouTube. So, that's no chump change there. It's definitely not an easy thing to build a community like that. So congratulations, well deserved on all of your success, and I appreciate you taking the time out to join the little show that could over here at Blunt Politics.
No, man, thank you for having me on. So.
But there's a ton that we can talk about. Obviously, there's no shortage of things to discuss, whether it's, the White House correspondence, debacle, the war in Iran, the actions of ICE and DHS inside of our own country here. There's no shortage, obviously, but what were just a kind of a few of the things, or the main thing, that sticks out to you right now that you've been talking about or want to touch base on?
I mean, all of those things are huge. But I mean, like we've come to, I guess, expect in this administration is nothing. Nothing stays in the news cycle for very long because everything is so fucking outrageous and insane that we just move from one outrage to the next. And I guess the most recent one is obviously the Supreme Court's gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And what that is going to mean for the fight coming up in the midterm elections. And that's why, everyone that cares about democracy needs to be doing absolutely everything that they can going forward and leading up to this midterm fight.
Yeah, and by the way, happy May Day to you. Appreciate for joining us on May Day. And you're absolutely right, because and the only thing that's kind of like keeping me from freaking out too much. I know this puts a big fight in front of us as it pertains to 2028, and I'm sure they're going to try to again use this in any way they possibly can as a weapon for the upcoming midterms in November. But we read yesterday on the show, I believe it was Democracy Docket, who was speaking about it and the difficulties that these states were going to face to try to get this into play for the 2026 midterms. Obviously, they're going to have ample time for 2028 and beyond to try to to gerrymander, to redistrict, and all those things. But there was a little sunshine, I guess, at the end of the fucking rainbow, at the end of the thunderstorm, if you will, that, even because a lot of the ballots have gone out with a lot of some of the military aspects, some of the early mail-in voting in some of these places that we've heard. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to hold, and I know that these Republican senators and shit are going to try, but I mean, it definitely brings up a huge fight and a glaring reason as to why we need substantial change as it pertains to the Supreme Court, in my eyes.
No, absolutely. I mean, it pisses me off every time that Democratic leadership takes options off the table coming up into the midterm elections. I mean, we heard Hakeem Jeffries say recently that they're not going to prioritize impeaching Donald Trump, impeaching the vice president or any other cabinet officials. That's just not a priority. And I think that's, first of all, as somebody who's been a victim of this administration to the extent that I have, to the extent that my family members have, that's incredibly disappointing. Which is one of the reasons why I've called for Hakeem Jeffries to step down, as the leader of the Democratic Party at this moment, as well as Chuck Schumer. But now I actually think they should go even further and just resign from Congress altogether. They're not meeting the moment. They're not the right people. And to be honest with you, I don't even think they're the right people to hold this job at any point in time. So they need to be gone. We need fighters who are prepared for what's coming in the midterm elections. I mean, you talked about some of the rainbow at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, and not to shit all over your parade, but look what they're doing in Louisiana. The Supreme Court ruling comes down. You've got the governor there calling to pause the elections so that they can redistrict, not in the middle of a decade, which is unprecedented, not in a normal every 10-year cycle after the census, but literally while an election is playing out, after votes have already been cast, they want to pause the election, redistrict, so that they can eliminate representation for the most vulnerable communities, African American communities, which, by the way, take up 33% of the population of Louisiana,
Right.
and yet they only have two, no statewide offices and only two elected representatives from those communities. And so, the motivation there to me is clear. The fight is, this is a do or die moment.
And just to shit on myself a little bit, I was kind of grasping at fucking threads there. Like, I'm just hoping for any fucking sunlight at this point. You know what I mean? Like, we're in that moment where you just, you got to be, there's something that you got to be hopeful about at some point is like off in the distance and is probably as fantastical as it is. But, I did just hear, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, and if you've heard this too, but I did just hear that a Republican, appointed judge basically had just kind of shot down the gains that we got in Virginia through that victory as well. I saw that, I think, reported by Midas Touch this morning. So looks like, the gains that we saw there are already in jeopardy based off of this Republican judge kind of shooting that down.
And I'm the other thing too, disappointing, again, another disappointment on behalf of the Democratic Party, the national apparatus, is the messaging behind this movement. People need to understand, like in Virginia, which is my home state where I live, the reasoning behind all of this was twofold. I mean, one, obviously, yes, it was a reaction to Donald Trump demanding from Republican governors that they gerrymander their states, which is very different, obviously, from like what happened in California and in Virginia, where they didn't just legislate these things into existence. They actually put it to a vote. They asked the citizens of Virginia, the citizens of California, to vote as to whether or not they wanted to approve a redistricting effort. And I'm not as familiar with, the California, the new district maps there, but I know that the new district maps in the state of Virginia are actually fair. They're a reverse of what Republicans had done in the state a decade prior, drawing these insane looking congressional maps that made absolutely no sense, didn't follow any type of geographical boundaries, split communities into half, into thirds, into quarters. It made no sense. And so what they've done is now made competitive districts that even a Republican could win if they put forward a candidate that's able to appeal to the entire community, rather than being, a far right extremist candidate, which we saw fail in the gubernatorial race in the state of Virginia. And so this is really about fairness as much as it is about responding to Donald Trump's demands that we eliminate Democrat representation from the House.
Right, and just to be clear, I want to make sure that I was reporting on that right. Was I getting that right? This is what the Virginia Supreme Court upholds block on redistricting certification. Again, I'm no law scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I believe that is what I saw reported.
Initially, there was a challenge by this Republican judge who put a block on it. There was an appeal filed to the state Supreme Court by the Attorney General and Jay Jones, and my understanding is that the Supreme Court was very skeptical of the Attorney General's appeal. And so what they have done is they have essentially not reversed the block while this continues to play out in court. So the block still stands. So they will not certify the election results for the new districting maps.
Gotcha.
And so we may see this play out in a way that it's not resolved before the midterm elections.
Right, which obviously would be a detriment. But you were talking about, you touched base on a little bit about how you talked about Hakeem Jeffries not wanting to make impeachment the focus or anything, and like, you know, going through what you've been through, that must feel like a direct slap in the face, because at this point, impeachment should be the bottom of the barrel. Like, that should be the very least that we're demanding, that we're calling for, especially politicians in that are supposed to be in leadership or calling themselves leadership to the opposition party. Like, that should be the least of which that you're calling for, demanding. Like, am I crazy or?
No, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with regards to that. And I'll tell you, like, I'll play my own devil's advocate. And, you know, I know what Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of people in leadership, why it is that they don't want to pursue this, because they want to pursue kitchen table issues, which they believe that the vast majority of Americans care more about than perhaps impeaching Donald Trump for the third time. And here's where I think, again, they don't realize that the voters are smarter than they think. And voters can, you know, if you connect the dots between the corruption, the criminal behavior of this administration, the unconstitutional behavior of this administration, and the economic issues that we are experiencing, they're all intertwined. You know, the economy is in the shitter because Donald Trump is the most corrupt president that we have ever seen in the history of this country. And his policies are so corrupt, only benefit, you know, the top 1% of the wealthy in this country. And that's having, you know, an effect on the rest of us, not to mention his illegal war in Iran, and the impact there on gas prices.
I mean, which again is another thing that, you know, we got to talk about, because it seems more and more likely now that we're going to see escalation before negotiation as far as the war in Iran is concerned. You know, we've seen, you know, reports of Israel putting together different target packages for inside Iran. We've heard the reports of, you know, the United States now, you know, bringing up these especially classified long-range weapons and missiles that really haven't been tested or used before, kind of showing us that, you know, we've depleted our stockpile more than they're definitely willing to let on, as has been reported by multiple outlets by this point in time. But it's a shame that we have to talk about how the gas prices, as bad as they are now, and the price per barrel oil is only going to get worse. I mean, I've talked about on this show, anybody that's watched this show for a while, we've been talking about the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Like, I know the Strait of Hormuz has been a big talking point, a big focal point, rightly so, obviously. But if the Houthis in Yemen, the proxy of the Iranians, decide to, you know, control the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the Red Sea, much like the Iranians have with the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, we're talking about, a huge impact, even more so than we've seen right now on prices. And again, everything that gets to your house or gets to your mouth or gets to your stomach is getting there by a plane, train, automobile, a truck, a train, something that uses fuel or diesel or jet fuel. So again, the rise in that cost is going to trickle down and affect all other aspects of the world economy, all other aspects of what you, things you need to buy, things you need for your daily life. So again, the fact that we're talking about it escalating and Donald Trump's rhetoric and Pete Hegseth's rhetoric and this thing going to kick back off before any negotiations happen is, you know, just a clear indication of where we are, not only geopolitically, but also within our own government here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say this from the 30,000 foot level when it comes to the war in Iran. I feel that I can't believe anything that comes out of any of the mouths of any administration officials at all. I mean, that goes with essentially with regards to anything that the administration does. But certainly when it comes to, you know, the war in Iran, I don't believe that. And the other thing that's abundantly clear to me, even, you know, not being familiar with, military strategy, I never served in the military. There's no plan here. And that's abundantly clear, even to a lay person like myself, that they have no idea what they're doing. There's no strategy. There's no plan. Donald Trump, live and in person on television almost daily changes, what the goalposts, where the goalposts are located.
Did you hear the latest one? Did you hear the latest one? You know, I'm sure you're familiar with like the War Powers Resolution and the fact that coming up on 60 days, which is today, Congress is supposed to have the right to either authorize or not authorize the continued use of military force. Well, now they're trying to, and I'll throw this on the screen, just a quick clip here of Pete Hegseth and his new line that they're trying to get across as far as basically we're under a ceasefire right now, so the 60-day clock should stop. Like the days should be stopped counting. Don't keep counting the days because there's no shots being fired at this point. Not understanding at the same time that they're still enacting a blockade, and a blockade is an act of war. So it doesn't matter if he thinks that shots are being fired or not. It just goes to show his incompetence in this and like how he's not built for this position. He's not educated enough. He's not smart enough for this position. But listen to him in this clip. It's only about 30 seconds in his new kind of line that he's trying to get across where, like, you know, it's almost like a timeout, like a little kid, like, you know, when they're caught and being tagged or like in laser tag and they know they're going to get fucking caught or something. They're like, okay, timeout, timeout. It's like, no, you can't just hit the timeout button. Like, you're still at war, dickhead. You know what I mean? Check this out. And again, he's right, but I still think the rhetoric here is just, it's not enough. Like, I think we need to be fucking, you know, more pissed off, more, you know, like more focused upon making these people out to be the liars and propagandists and getting us in this position and making this so dangerous. And again, I'm sure I'm built different, and maybe that's not the best way to go about these things, but, you know, I'd have a tough time kind of keeping my cool in these situations, just kind of being like, well, you know, based off what we're seeing on the ground and what you're telling us is horse shit. You know what I mean? It's just not true.
Yeah, I don't think the American people need to be convinced at this point that Pete Hegseth is anything more than a game show host who used to cosplay as a military guy on weekends. He's a joke. He's a clown. And listen, I got a lot of friends, both active duty and retired in the military, and unequivocally, many of whom are Trump supporters, think that Pete Hegseth is a fucking moron. I don't know a single solitary person on this planet that think that Pete Hegseth is doing a good job. And so I think that we need to move from pointing out, as you know, Pete Hegseth is gonna make it abundantly clear on a daily basis that he has no idea what he's doing and what a clown he is. And reminding the American people that while he is putting on this charade and talking tough and using the technical language of special forces operators in his daily speak, that Americans are dying, that American lives are being lost, and they're being lost because he's a complete fucking idiot.
He sounds like half priest, half GI Joe. You know what I mean? He's either talking about God or blowing people up. There's no in between with this asshole.
Absolutely, he's a caricature of himself. It's embarrassing, but it's also, you know, it's terrifying to me because I know that there are people that, you know, I had a friend, and I tell this story now often, and he did many tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's still active duty, and he's in, you know, one of those units that Pete Hegseth likes to emulate and pretend that he's a part of, and he's most likely either deployed already or in the process of deploying to Iran, and he told me, you know, Mike, if I die over here, make sure that you carve into my gravestone that I died because Donald Trump fucks little kids. And and I think that is, and I use this story to educate people into this mindset that there are people in this country who believe so strongly in our democracy and care so much about the American people that they will put their lives on the line, even when they know that the reality
It's
of
not a just cause.
why they're being sent over there. And I know a lot of people would say, well, why don't they just, say no and refuse and all of those different things. Well, it's also about, their fellow Americans that they're serving with. And if you ask a lot of service members, they will tell you, like, I'm not going to sit it out when my friends and my brothers and my sisters are going over there and risking their lives. But it's so well known within the community that this is all bullshit, that this war is bullshit, that it was, like my friend so eloquently put it, a distraction from Trump diddling kids. But also, I think this unholy matrimony between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu that seems to be influencing so much of American policy in a moment in which we're supposed to be America first.
Which again brings me back to our leadership, unfortunately, because I have a hard time believing that we're in any way going to see the progress that we want to see, the changes that we want to see, defeating fascism the way we want to see it defeated, when, again, the same billionaire donors and the same dark money fucking class that is funding Netanyahu and is funding the Israeli lobby is also got their greedy fucking mitts behind our Democratic politicians. You know what I mean? It's just, when you go out and you hear Chuck Schumer talking about how, important it is to continue sending weapons to Israel, when you see his vote to continue sending weapons to Israel, to send bulldozers to Israel, and again, all of the speeches that he's given, along those same lines, it's like, I don't see how we're going to get the progress that we want and the changes that we want and defeat fascism when fascism is now not rightly, but definitely funding both sides of the equation, both sides,
no doubt.
Kind of pitting them against each other.
And I'll tell you, like, to me, this is one of the silver linings of this moment. I would say at the 30,000 foot view, this administration has been brilliant at adversely affecting so many Americans in such a short span of time that, for whatever their motivations, they have woken up to the reality of Donald Trump and this administration. And if they were supporters, even 3-time supporters, I mean, there's that clip that's gone viral of the interview of the woman at the gas pump who said she voted for Trump 3 times. And the reporter asked her, what would you say to Donald Trump? And she said, I would tell him that he's a piece of shit. And that was coming from a 3-time Trump voter. And so people are waking up. The other thing is that issues like corporate money in politics, and this is where I get more specific to what you were talking about. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck AIPAC was 6 months ago. I had no idea. Right. It just wasn't something that ever, came across my, came into my radar. But now, like, every time I look at a politician, one of the first things that I do is I Google, like, how much AIPAC money has this guy taken or gal, and how are they voting on things like the War Powers Resolution, and how is this directly affecting them? And listen, the War Powers Resolution is a fucking no-brainer. Congress has the authority to oversee, and not just the authority, they have the responsibility, when it comes to declaring war. And they have completely abdicated that responsibility. And it's not just Republicans. There's Democrats too that have abdicated their responsibility in oversight of this administration and reining in this administration's illegal war, because they take so much money from AIPAC, and that is such a huge influence. And so, what it has done is it's reignited the conversation that we need to take corporate money out of politics. And until that happens, we're not going to get the kind of candidates that we want. I'm all over the country supporting grassroots candidates, for Congress, because those are the types of people that I want to see representing us, people that refuse to take corporate PAC money. But the reality is that's going to take us digging into our pockets at a time when, there's not a lot in there, and giving to these candidates to replace the money that they're not taking from corporate America. And that's what's difficult.
Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was going to say what's good, and along those lines is, we've steadily been seeing the support for Israel and what they've been, engaged in and perpetrating go down on both sides, whether that's, the bases on both sides or the politicians on both sides, and more people like yourself that, rightly said you weren't familiar with what AIPAC was 6-7 months ago, now coming into play, now knowing to, Google and say, okay, how much have you taken? What have your votes in? So I think a lot of people are smartening up to that, which is, I hope, going to make it more difficult for these snakes to kind of, sneak behind us in the fucking long grass type of thing. You know what I mean? Like the candidates that you're supporting, it's probably because they're out there saying they're not going to take AIPAC funding, because they're not taking dark money. So it's like, hopefully that resonates with the, the new class of politicians that comes in, and it deters people from ever thinking about taking money from that side of the aisle, or those people in general, or voting against, human rights. And like, I hope that's where it kind of comes into play there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're starting to see it course correct on its own. The problem is that, we're still in the infant stages of that.
Right.
And what a lot of these, first-time candidates are up against are, established or establishment candidates that are willing to take that money, that are willing to, to be influenced by, by those entities. And so again, it's
like a catch-22. You need the money to compete, but you don't want to take the money from those places because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the Democrat side, I will say this, like on the Democrat side, like what I've experienced is in a lot of races, and I would point to Maine as well. The senatorial race there, what's her name? I forget her name, just dropped out.
Janet Mills.
But I mean, there was a big point of contention that she was taking AIPAC money. And so, and taking corporate money, and Graham Plattner won't. And so, kudos to, to Maine and to Mainers for getting behind a candidate like Graham Plattner and continuing to support him, despite all the hiccups, in his candidacy.
Hiccups. Hiccups is carrying some fucking water in that sentence, my friend. And I'll go this far. We don't have to get into that debate in this show, but I love the policies, love the platform, love the shit coming out of his mouth. Don't know about the guy. Don't know about the guy. I don't know someone that isn't the smartest fucking bulb on the Christmas tree by any stretch of the imagination. There's no way you're getting that fucking tattoo past me. Somebody that knows a little bit about World War II, knowing a little bit about people that have joined the military and what they know about history and stuff like that. Some of the more racist comments that I've seen, even in recent interviews, I've seen him kind of double down on some of them. So, I'm not all the way, to where other people are. But like I said, the policy platforms and like the stuff that is being said, I'm all for. It's just, I don't know. I have my issues, but like I said, we can save that for a different day, and we can we can continue on with the conversation. But I mean, to kind of change topics just a little bit, and it's not even really changing topics because it pertains obviously with this government, but like the weaponization that we've seen, obviously with like Jimmy Kimmel recently with that joke. We could talk about James Comey and the 8647 post. Like, have you been kind of like, does it worry you a little bit at, them trying to crack down on what people are putting on social media, knowing that you're outspoken, you're opinionated, you don't hold back, that type of thing?
I mean, I don't worry about things like that with regards to myself. And I'll be honest with you, like this administration doesn't exactly have an amazing track record at garnering convictions. Most of these frivolous prosecutions end up, being tossed out of court. That being said, I mean, that's not to take away from the trauma of having to experience a prosecution, a clearly vindictive prosecution at the hands of the president of the United States. I mean, arguably the most powerful person in the world, and the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, two agencies that traditionally speaking aspire to be fair,
right,
and practice with integrity and honor. That has been completely wiped out from those agencies. I view them as illegitimate agencies. They are simply extensions of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. The thing that terrifies me is, as a former law enforcement officer, is understanding that so much of the apparatus has been purged. So many of those agencies have been completely gutted of the exact type of agents and attorneys, prosecutors that we want representing us as Americans in the criminal justice system, replaced by, Trump loyalists or, people that just want to capitulate by keeping their heads down to collect their good government paycheck and are willing to, to carry out these prosecutions. But also they're not doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be taking bad people off the streets. They're supposed to be investigating, corruption, and they're supposed to be investigating criminal activity, but they're not. They're running.
What did you think when you heard that Kash Patel said he had multiple agents on James Comey's tweet investigation for 9, 10, or 11 months?
Listen, I've seen wiretap cases carried out in less time than it took to indict James Comey over a fucking picture that he tweeted out. Kash Patel, I mean, that's another one. Like, Kash Patel is probably one of the dumbest human beings to ever walk the earth. And as somebody who wore a badge for 20 years, is just such an embarrassment, like an absolute embarrassment. He has single-handedly taken American law enforcement back like 100 fucking years.
And that's why nobody believes a word that they say. You know what I mean? Which is like why I don't blame people for having the thoughts and the processes that they were going through as far as the White House correspondence bullshit. You know what I mean?
He real-time tweets investigations. He literally flies into, high profile events and fucks them up royally. I mean, he has completely bungled every investigation that he has ever participated in. He's a podcaster. What should you expect? Right. He's a conspiratorialist podcaster that, drew Trump's favor and ended up in this position that he's grossly, unqualified,
yeah,
just like everybody else in the cabinet. But and listen, I'll tell you, like, I think the great litmus test on Kash Patel's performance is the handling of this latest, quote unquote, assassination attempt of Donald Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If you watched, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I always, especially when it comes to law enforcement activity, I err on the side of gross negligence and incompetence before I start, turning to these crazy conspiracy theories. But
well, I'm glad you brought it up because I'm curious, and I'll let you continue. But I'm curious to as far as your law enforcement background, like what you see and what what kind of comes to your brain right off the bat as compared to somebody that may not have the the insight, the law enforcement training and stuff like that. So you continue. I'll play this in the background with no sound, and you can just kind of tell me what you see, anything that you notice, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that overall. The administration, the agency, the FBI, the Department of Justice have done such a poor job of maintaining the public trust that the vast majority of Americans, even people that are, not particularly political. I mean, if you get an opportunity, go back and watch. Don Lemon did like a Man of the People episode where he just went out on the streets and talks to random people about, what their thoughts are on the assassination attempt. And not a single solitary one of them thought it was legitimate. And, people even went as so far as to say that, this is it to them. It calls into question all the previous attempts, and they think this is all bullshit, and that it's just, created by this administration. And listen, I wouldn't take it that far, but I think it clearly shows the fact that this administration, or that people just don't believe anything that comes out of their mouths.
Now, what do you make of the fact that the dog and the agent, the officer, I don't know what agency he works for, was literally at the door the kid walked into now, and then he comes bursting out with this gun that he's have. You can still see in the back corner there, you know what I mean? The guy with the dog. Like if you go to the beginning of this and you look at it and like watching this circle, you can see the kid. That's the shooter right there. Walks into that side room. The guy has a canine, basically follows him into the room. You know what I mean? The canine's in the room right now. The leash, the guy that's holding the leash isn't in the room. The canine's in the same room with the guy that comes bursting out in about 2 seconds with a gun. Now, what this guy is looking at, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, look at the timing now. The dog comes walking back out. The agent's still looking in the room, right? Still communicating, I'm assuming, or just looking, right? Turns his back for 1 second, and the guy comes out with a gun. It's like, what were you looking at through the door? What was the dog doing? What's the dog trained to do? not to smell guns, I guess. And then, if you let it play, the fact that, they're all kind of, and again, this is not to take away anything from like the heat of the moment type of thing, but the fact that people run the other direction is not a great sign either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there were just so many failures from a security standpoint. I mean, it's almost countless. But as somebody who attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner previously, I'm pretty familiar with that hotel. I'm pretty familiar with the security posture for these events, and gaining access to the hotel. The hotel is open to anyone. It's still considered a public space even during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There's no controlled access to getting into the hotel. You have to go into the hotel's main lobby. You go down a set of escalators, and that's where you encounter the first security checkpoints. From the time that I attended several years ago, there were a number of smaller ballrooms off of the main ballroom, which were, by invitation only. It was like the CNN party, the MSNBC party, all the different news networks kind of hosted their own little gathering there prior to the beginning of the event, and then.
Right.
After you left those parties, you would go through the security checkpoint to get into the main ballroom. That's always how it's been. It's been sufficient in past years. That being said, I would have suggested that they certainly enhance security, given the fact that this president is as disliked.
Right. We're at war. He's as disliked and unpopular as he is. We got missing scientists going fucking, missing all over the place. Yeah. He's allegedly had now 3 attempts on his life. Like, you'd think you wouldn't choose the lesser of apparently the 2 security levels that they had to choose from. If the reporting was correct, that they chose like the kind of the lesser of the 2 evils.
Right. And I would say that, knowing law enforcement the way that I do, and then also having, I owned a security company after I left the police department for a number of years that did events just like this, these kind of, white glove, political events in which we had protectees, Secret Service protectees attend. The first thing you got to remember is that Secret Service is there to protect their protectees. They're not there to ensure security for the entire event. They screen people attending to protect their protectees. They don't give a shit about anybody other than, those that they're specifically responsible for, which is also why you saw cabinet members like RFK Jr. getting escorted out while their wife ran behind them, solo. I mean, so
do you think that JD Vance just had the better of the Secret Service teams? He had the better of the Secret Service leaders that knew to get him the fuck out of there and not stick around on stage for another 10, 15 seconds?
I'm not going to speculate, but I will say this, knowing Donald Trump's personality the way that I do, because we've all had to witness it over the past 10 plus years, I would imagine that he probably was like, fuck it, I'm staying. Let me go back out on the stage and fist pump and fucking, lead the crowd in chanting USA, USA. He also probably
It shouldn't be. I know that's probably not the way it works right now, especially in this dysfunctional fucking government, this dysfunctional White House. But if I'm not mistaken, he's not supposed to have that ability to make that call in those situations, right? Like,
no.
as soon as the fucking fires, like as soon as the shots fired, it's like the Secret Service have the fucking ball,
Well,
like it's their ball game.
I mean, the other thing, exactly. I mean, the other thing is they're not protecting Donald J. Trump.
It's the office of the president, right?
The president of the United States,
right?
And but I think that Donald Trump probably for the first time in the history of this country views those things as one and the same. And so, but I don't know what the conversation there was like. It was clearly, I mean, what he should have been done was like thrown into a fucking armored limousine and sent to the nearest secure.
He pretty much admits it on with the 60 Minutes interview. He kind of says, I made it difficult for them. I think he was trying to butter up the fact that he was on stage for a little longer than JD Vance to some extent, and obviously saying that he didn't fall on his fucking fat orange face. But like he did say that he made it difficult, and there's those clips and the pictures that you can see where he's kind of in the background by the curtains, kind of watching the ballroom, seeing what the fuck's going on. Like that shouldn't fucking happen. You know what I mean? The fact that the vice president and the president of the United States weren't immediately taken to vastly separate locations just to make sure. And then the fact that they all met up again afterwards at the fucking press conference. It's like, you guys idiots. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, those are certainly that's not in line with what I would come to expect from Secret Service protection. But I think the other thing too is you got to remember these agencies are all being headed by Trump loyalists, and so I think the willingness for them to bend, if not break, with their policy and procedure to accommodate Donald Trump and people like JD Vance. Like I think.
Yeah, I just want to make people know, like in the real world, like in a normal fucking world, like you shouldn't be able to do that as Donald Trump to say, I'm just going to sit here and watch. Hold on, let me stay on the stage for another couple seconds. The same way he did in Butler. Like you wouldn't have the fucking president in the line of fire. Still, there's a guy on a rooftop apparently with the line of fire. You're not going to have him sit there with his fucking hand up, yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." That's just it's just not.
It's so abnormal, and I think that's it lends credence to a lot of the conspiracy theories that are out there because people are just like, it doesn't make any sense. But going back to the video you were playing, one of the main factors here, and I would attribute this to Secret Service leadership and whatever the agent in charge of of that event. Why in the earth would you have agents breaking down the magnetometers?
Right.
My understanding is this is less than 30 minutes after the event began, because what you do when you're doing that is you create an environment in which it softens the security posture. You've got guys that are kind of just milling about. They know that essentially their responsibility is over with.
Right.
Like keep the shit up until the end of the fucking event. Keep your people in a heightened posture all the way up until the end of the event.
It's just a very lackadaisical, like you explained, just kind of like, my shift is done almost. I'm at the end of the shift. Like I'm about ready to clock out, everything's kind of taken care of, sitting against the wall, type of thing. And then all of a sudden you go from that to shots fired in a second. And that's why people, you could probably speak obviously better than I could, but what about the where people are in terms of where you're firing your weapon type of training? You know what I mean? Because it seems to be the first 3 or 4 shots that were fired were basically almost directly pointed at the 3 or 4, officers, agents that were standing on the wall and breaking down the magnetometer. You know what I mean? It just didn't seem to be like a nervous type of holy shit reaction rather than a well-trained, coherent, let me figure out what's going on and then react type of reaction. You know what I mean?
Well, it looks like that because that's what it was. Listen, there's nothing tactical about about how this played out. This was kind of like a Keystone Cops moment. And that's just the reality of of this particular event. And one of the things that that I did find interesting is the fact that obviously the White House Correspondents' Dinner takes place every year. Normally presidents are in attendance, other high level members of the government. But I don't think we've ever had a situation where so many individuals who are in the direct, chain for the presidency were in attendance at this event, and yet they still, I like that picture. They still chose to have this, kind of
minimum security, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the security posture, you think about the State of the Union and what that is like, the security for that. I mean, you can't walk within fucking 3 blocks of the Capitol.
I mean, even in the movies, we were bringing up on the show, like even and I know it's the movies, but like to a certain extent, it's got to be somewhat realistic how they go ahead some weeks in advance. They scope out the routes, they're looking for rooftops and vantage points, that they're seeing who lives in the vicinity, who's got a criminal record, who has, who's on the terrorism watch list or whatever the fuck. Like there's a lot that typically goes into making sure that there's ample layers of security, if I'm not mistaken, and like you and Jim Acosta said the same thing, because this hotel, in years past, like you said, you've been there, it's just kind of walk in, and you can go to each of the ballrooms, or if you go downstairs, you got to go past the security that they have set up downstairs. But you think that would be, like you said, the perimeter would be brought out more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, especially, again, given this day and age and the normalization of political violence in this country, and all of the anger and resentment towards this administration, I just would have expected a much more heightened security posture. And again, I think that these moments of gross negligence or incompetence tend to fuel these conspiracies that surround all of these different events and call into question whether or not they even were real.
Basically everything at this point, especially with the, the advent of AI and stuff like that, that's already making people, question anything they see, whether it's a video, a picture, anything like that. Like to have this government out there lying through their teeth in every aspect, doesn't matter if it's the Epstein files, doesn't matter if it's like, Russia's war in Ukraine, or if it's, about NATO or Greenland or Venezuela, like every aspect of this government, we've been told lie after lie after lie after lie. And again, like I keep telling the people in the chat, I don't think that this was like a hugely scripted piece of theater by this administration, but I don't put it past them that they're like almost inviting chaos through incompetency type of thing. You know what I mean? Like the security's so lackluster, they don't really give a shit, but they're willing to kind of utilize whatever bad thing happens to their political benefit, much like they came out and started calling for, this is why we need the ballroom. You know what I mean? They all hopped on the ballroom fucking thing. Like they're more than willing to use these horrible actions and these horrible things to their political benefit, but it's almost like they're inviting it without inviting it based on their incompetency, stupidity, and willingness to not take things seriously. You know what I mean? But, again, I don't blame anybody for questioning everything that you see in front of your face and rightly being like, hey, that doesn't make sense. They've never told us the truth. Therefore, there's got to be something in between what I'm being told and what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? So again, I don't fault anybody for having that, that mindset whatsoever either.
No, not at all. I mean, believe your eyes and believe your ears. I just tell people that, before you jump down the conspiracy rabbit hole, just recognize that this administration is grossly incompetent. And I would always err on the side of incompetence before I started thinking that this was somehow some orchestrated event. I don't think Donald Trump could orchestrate the delivery of McDonald's meal. So,
and yet he's not surrounded by the brightest individuals either. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if people are like, well, even if it's not him doing the fucking thinking, it's not like he's got a bunch of scientists and fucking Rhodes scholars sitting behind him either. But to switch gears just a touch, I went through a couple of your videos recently, and you had been touching on what was going on with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the bullshit that's been going on with, again, them using funds to infiltrate these white supremacist groups like the KKK, and then the GOP now trying to kind of turn that around and use them as some sort of scapegoat and make it seem like they were doing something, overtly illegal, and that they were actually funding these groups. What kind of can you tell us about that? And, what's your point of view on what the GOP is trying to do as far as, using the Southern Poverty Law Center as a scapegoat, much like the First Amendment, Jimmy Kimmel, they're just kind of utilizing that in the best of the ways that they can for their political expedience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar, the Southern Poverty Law Center is essentially an advocacy group, but also they have been tracking and following extremist groups in the United States, I think for the better part of 40, 50 years. But they have also been an incredibly important partner with law enforcement all the way up until this administration.
Mm-hmm.
This administration is the first administration to completely sever ties with this organization. And I mean, that should, I think, speak for itself. The types of groups that they follow are, groups like the KKK and the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters. A lot of the different, independent militia groups. That, I think speaks volumes that they would not want a relationship and the benefit of their expertise and knowledge. And I, coming from a law enforcement background, and I recognize how reactional law enforcement is oftentimes. And I remember, I joined shortly after 9/11, and a lot of the guys that had been on for a number of years before me, especially, when I went into narcotics field specifically, they would talk about how, right after 9/11, all of our resources went from domestic extremism, because obviously we had the Oklahoma City bombing in recent years.
Yep.
We had Eric Rudolph and Ruby Ridge and all of these different events, Waco, Texas. So that was at the forefront, as was narcotics trafficking. And so those were kind of the two areas of focus for law enforcement, kind of from the 30,000 foot level. After 9/11, all of those resources were dumped into, foreign terrorist organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And so you saw, the loss of that expertise, but also a loss of, keeping track of domestic extremist organizations in America, which, I think if you fast forward to, the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and Three Percenters participation in January 6th, you could see a direct correlation where law enforcement just wasn't tracking these people, but the Southern Poverty Law Center was. And one of the ways that they would, keep track of these organizations is through human intelligence informants, which just so happens to be exactly what I did for 2 decades with the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. I worked sources. And anyone who has ever worked sources knows that, one of the main motivators.
You don't give them up.
Well, you don't give them up, first of all. But one of the main motivators behind working sources is financial gain.
Right.
You pay your informants. And so the indictment that was handed down, Todd Blanche announced, Todd Blanche, who's Donald Trump's personal attorney, who also in his spare time is the acting, attorney general for the United States at the Department of Justice.
Which in and of itself in a normal time would be a fucking huge issue right off the bat. But because we're in the fucking, the twilight zone, it's like that just kind of gets forgotten.
Right. And so they indict them for fraud. And what they're alleging is that in paying these informants, and this is where it just gets, crazy. Essentially, by paying the informants, they were eliciting false information from them. They were basically paying them to pretend to be a part of white supremacist organizations and give them information about these fake white supremacist organizations. And we know that that's complete and utter bullshit, because for the better part of, again, 4 decades, much of that information led to, one, the stopping of terrorist events in the United States
Mm-hmm.
at the hands of these domestic extremist groups, but also the successful prosecution of literally hundreds, if not thousands, of domestic extremists in the United States, to include the crippling and dismantling of the KKK. And so, you know, it's insane to me that that this is what, with everything that we have in this country, all the crime that we have in this country, this is how the Department of Justice is expending its resources, is to go after a law enforcement ally, or at least previously a law enforcement ally, that pursues white supremacist terrorist organizations in the United States.
And meanwhile, nothing on the Epstein files. They feel like they've done everything they possibly can. You know, they've fulfilled all their duties. They've redacted everything they could possibly redact. Meanwhile, they'll probably never speak about that again unless it's, you know, forced out of them. But they're more than willing to, again, put James Comey in their sights, in their targets, you know, Jimmy Kimmel, to try to put some pressure on him to whatever degree. Anybody else that has something bad to say or negative to say about him. It's crazy to see. Again, the levels of depravity of this government is just, it never, and again, a lot of the problem is, and I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard Southern Poverty Law Center without even realizing it, because a lot of like the studies, a lot of the news reports, a lot of these like in-depth reviews and stuff like that of a lot of these gangs and the Oath Keepers, you know, you'll hear it on the news. Like, this will stem from research done from the Southern Poverty Law Center, or, you know, work done, or, you know, this is coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center. And you can tell that's probably had a big impact on like Republicans continuously hearing that, going against these, you know, the agencies and the groups that they love and they don't want to see taken down. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, because they have done fantastic work. They've been very consequential, which again, this is kind of, you know, a good piece of evidence to suggest or to prove that they've been consequential is the fact that Todd Blanche and the DOJ is doing this and taking this case up right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's not a coincidence that this administration is the administration that cuts ties with an organization that tracks, you know, white supremacist domestic terrorist groups in America. And it's because they have aligned themselves with white supremacist domestic terrorist groups in America. I mean, the clear and convincing evidence of that should be that, you know, they pardoned Oath Keepers, 3%ers, and Proud Boys who were involved in the attack on our Capitol on January 6th, and then later convicted of seditious conspiracy, as well as a whole host of other violent crimes for their role that day. And these are organizations that, you know, putting aside my commentator hat and putting on my law enforcement hat, are direct descendants of the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist organizations that, you know, that were born out of Reconstruction and, you know, thrived during Jim Crow.
And it also wasn't that long ago that the FBI under Joe Biden was rightly talking about how white Christian nationalism and white supremacists was the biggest threat that we faced, domestically in this country. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was Christopher Wright or Christopher Wray, if I'm not mistaken,
who was appointed by Donald Trump.
Right.
Yes.
Go ahead. I mean, spit it. I mean, that's we're coming from not that long ago where the FBI, by a Biden appointed person, a Biden appointed appointee, a Trump appointee, came out and was rightly talking about how white supremacy, white Christian nationalism was the biggest threat domestically that we face in this country, and poses the biggest risk to, you know, political violence, all of these things that we were seeing as far as, you know, stirring up, different protests and shit like that. So, you know, 100%, you're 100% right.
And to have that be replaced with the biggest threat to America is the Democratic Party, which was just, those words were literally uttered under oath by Pete Hegseth, who leads the most powerful military in the world. And it's constantly being, you know, that type of language is being used by Republicans, you know, across the board. It is it's insane.
And here's another piece of that where, you know, he's kind of, this isn't the clip that he references the, the Democrats and the media as being like the biggest existential threat that he now faces, or like the United States military now faces, was like the defeatist Democrats. But he's gone after the media a ton of times. This one I kind of found a little surprising because Jennifer Griffin works for Fox News, right? She's not like this Republican bootlicker. As far as what I've seen reported, she typically does kind of on the nose, military, this is the time, this is the date, this is when they left, this is when they got back type of reporting. So to see Pete Hegseth kind of attack her like this, just kind of to show his snowflakiness, let's just say, his kind of thin skin, and the fact that he knows he's painted into a corner at this point, that he's told so many lies, and that it's not, comporting with what we're seeing on the ground in reality, or with what the Iranians are saying, that he has nothing else now other than to lash back, to lash out, much like Pam Bondi at her Epstein hearings, where she wouldn't turn around and face the Epstein victims. Like, she had this whole list of talking points, whether it was Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, anything that she could possibly bring up about Adam Schiff or Chuck Schumer and whatever. But if once they're backed into a corner, it's always Joe Biden, Kamala. They have no answers. They don't know the facts or the figures. But check this out. This is just a real quick clip where he's kind of going after Fox News even, or their reporters at this point.
It's about highly enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo Mountain, or some of it? Because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance. Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect. But Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What?
She's like, what? She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, out of nowhere, it's just like to show the erratic nature of these people. And they're like, there was another one from his meetings, where he was, where he was talking about basically the Democrats being the biggest threat that he now faces to getting these missions accomplished and to getting his goals achieved in this war. But it's just, it's just ridiculous. These idiots.
I am waiting with bated breath for a journalist to just simply respond with, just shut the fuck up, Pete. Shut the fuck up.
Right. But the problem is they've set up an environment where you won't be in the room the next day. You know what I mean? Like, you're sure to not only not be in the room, but you may have lost your job, if not career, the next day, if they have anything to do with it. That's, the sycophancy that they've created in the White House.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, listen, I think it's incumbent upon, not to spin this in a whole other direction, but it's incumbent upon journalists to stand up for their fellow journalists, which was, one of the reasons, going back to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I was so disappointed to see so many journalists take an opportunity to, put on some fancy clothes and go drink fucking wine and eat some shitty dinner.
Fucking spot on, dude.
Simply because, because all that does is it normalizes what's happening. And this is, this administration is full-throatedly attacking the First Amendment in this country. They're arresting journalists. They're intimidating journalists. They're investigating journalists without probable cause. They're harassing them. They're subjecting them to, all types of intimidation tactics. And to see a bunch of, and listen, let's call it what it is, mostly legacy media folks in attendance at these events, at this event, just made me, want to vomit.
And what happened to all the death threats that all of these media stars have gotten as a result of what MAGA has done and what Donald Trump's rhetoric? Like, don't they always go out there and they're like, well, look at all these death threats that I've been getting, but let's go fucking, let me put on my best tux. Let me go cheers and have a glass of champagne with the same people that have been sicking their base and their cult-like fucking members after me for, 10, 12 years at this goddamn point. You know what I mean? It's like, I said the same thing, like, fuck everybody that showed up there. Like, if Caitlin Collins hasn't been called a bitch enough, or if Caitlin Collins hasn't been disrespected enough by either Donald Trump or the Republican Party or the base there, like, well, what the fuck's she doing there? And the rest of these idiots that, again, are just going to be, and this goes back to the people in Congress, you know what I mean? Because we've heard stories about how they fight inside of these committees, and then the next thing you know, they're buddy in the hallway, or, they're taking the same elevator, eating at the same restaurants, and that fucking bugs me too. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be out there calling these people an existential threat, a threat to democracy, people that are trying to stomp and trample all over women's rights and, marginalized communities, the trans communities, fucking the LGBTQIA, and then obviously be like, hey, where do you want to go get a beer? You know what I mean? It's like Cenk Uygur sitting down with fucking, Charlie Kirk and going to get a beer with him when that whole debacle of a debate went on. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. You can't have both things at the same time, type of thing.
Yeah, no, this isn't normal times. These aren't policy disagreements. I mean, this is, like you said, these people are an existential threat to democracy. They're trampling all over my rights, all over your rights, all over the rights of, countless communities across this country. And the idea that you would just set aside that and put on a ball gown and fucking go drink a cocktail and like chum it up with, just really great people like Erica Kirk or fucking Neen Pirro or like any of these other sleazeballs. It just, it boggles my mind. And
the bar is so low right now too, because like you were talking about, you were dying to have a reporter kind of push back or tell him to shut the fuck up, or at least, push back in some way, shape, or form. And it's like even the smallest amount of pushback now. I think there was one, I forget the female journalist's name, but she kind of had a confrontational meeting with Trump, and it really wasn't even that bad. She just kind of asked one or two follow-up questions, and everybody was like, round of applause. Everybody was like shocked. Oh my God. And there was a gentleman too that also, I think, was asking Donald Trump something about like one of the lies he was telling about the Ayn Rand war, and people were like, holy shit, get that kid's name. And it's like, the bar is so low. You know what I mean? Like, I agree. Like, good. He asked a follow-up question, but like, Jesus, it just shows us how low the bar really is, that we're like so impressed. Like it's fucking magic now when a reporter actually does get a follow-up question. Oh, you're like, holy shit, how'd that happen?
Well, that's why so many people have migrated from the legacy media space to independent journalism.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, people like yourself and myself are enjoying the level of success that we are, is because people have completely lost faith, trust in, these legacy media organizations. Because the reality is that, Americans are not dumb, and they recognize the fact that, like, especially in the age of the 24-hour news cycle, where we learn everything about everything that's happening all the time. Right. You see like these corporate buyouts and these mergers, and how, all of these different conservative players, conservative billionaires are buying up, Larry Ellison buying up all of these media companies. And then you see, like, almost instantaneously, look at CBS, the content and the tone changes like that. Mm-hmm. And people know exactly what's happening. They see like, okay, well, this company has been bought and paid for. They're no longer an independent minded news outlet. They're just going to regurgitate administration talking points, and they're going to stay between the lines. And maybe every once in a while they might ask, a question that, at face value looks like real journalism, but it's not.
So I guess we've kind of touched on a lot of, many of the issues and stuff that, that need to be discussed. But like a lot of people feel kind of, I don't want to say hopeless or helpless, but they're dying. They're desperate for a way to either get involved or to make a difference, or, for some sort of leadership or kind of, a path forward. Like, what can we do going into midterms here to make sure that we can mitigate the damages seen by the Republicans in the Supreme Court, like we were trying to say, in trying to, gerrymander the shit out of their states even further to get further seats in their states. Like, I know we have to recognize the lack of power that we have within government, whether it's the House or the Senate, obviously the presidency right now. Like, what can people do? What can they be doing to kind of not get involved, but stay involved and actually make a difference right now?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, and I've traveled all over the country answering that exact question. One, understand that there are literally tens of millions of people across the country that feel exactly the same way that you do, that are, looking for a way to be impactful, to fight back against the administration. And so, what I tell them is, first, prioritize civic engagement at this moment in your life. You can even carve out just from now until the midterm elections, and then reassess after the midterm elections, but make civic engagement a part of your daily life. And then, start small. Find things that you can do in your community. I mean, ultimately, local elections are far more important than national elections. Although in this particular moment, I think we would have to say that they're all on an equal playing field. But support candidates that support your values and principles. And by supporting them, that means financially. It means digging deep and helping fuel their candidacy. And if you can't do that, or if you can do that and muster up volunteering some of your time, they need people to, they need door knockers. They need people passing out flyers. They need people, helping plan community events and organizing in that fashion. I mean, the other thing that you can do is find existing organizations that are in your community and get involved. And if there aren't any, look at, and I always give this example because I participated in several events with them, but there's an organization in Kansas called Leading Kansas. And to me, having traveled the country as extensively as I can, they are kind of like the blueprint for, nonpartisan activism, civic engagement that should be replicated in every community across the country. Go onto their website, see what they're doing, reach out to their leadership. They are very responsive, and create something similar in your community. But we don't have the luxury at this point of sitting on the sidelines. Everybody needs to get involved. And that can also be as small as, talking to friends and family members who recognize how dangerous the situation is that we're in, and taking their happy asses to the polls, making sure that, that they turn that, anger into energy and into action, and actually cast a vote, which I believe at this point in time should be the bare minimum.
Yeah, and then again, try to get everybody out there. If you can fill your seats, whatever car that you got, and go into the polls, that would be even better. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, that's just not a normal time right now. We can't treat it as such. We need to make sure that we are doing everything we possibly can. And I totally agree with what you're saying as far as like local politics, getting involved in your children's school boards and stuff like that has a huge impact. And who's kind of making the decisions and with the youth of this country and what they're being taught and how they're being raised and, kind of what they're afforded as far as in society. So 100% right behind you. And we appreciate you for supporting the candidates that you do and obviously traveling around the country like you do to get out there and make people kind of more educated on the problems and people that may be able to fix those problems. Where do you see, kind of wrapping it up, where do you see us going as far as like Iran is concerned? I don't know. People trying to say that there was anything breaking I always feel like I'm missing breaking news when I'm live. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm going to be the last one to report on it because I'm live at this point in time. But, assuming that there hasn't been any huge breaking news, where do you see us kind of going with the war in Iran? Do you see us, you see the bombs dropping before the negotiations happening, or, what do you kind of see there?
I mean, I'll just look at it from the widest angle that I can. I think we end up in a ground war in Iran. I think that's that to me is inevitable. Unfortunately, I think that I don't. This administration, I believe, is grossly misrepresenting or underrepresenting the casualties that we've experienced to date. I've talked to people that work at Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, D.C., who said that they are, grossly misrepresenting the amount of casualties that they're seeing coming in almost on a daily basis. And so I think that when, in retrospect, when we look back on this, the cost is going to be significantly more than what we thought in blood.
And we just had one of them testify in front of Congress that it was like the $25 billion range. And he said it, and even the senator, I forget who the senator was at the point, was kind of surprised. He was a little taken aback that he gave a specific amount. because it obviously it doesn't it doesn't line up with everything else that we've known about how much we're spending in this war, whether it be the munitions expended, the different military equipment that has been burnt up, shot down, demolished, whatever, or again the amount that we spent, in tax dollars to fund this war. But even at the low estimates here, which is what this Iran war tracker is, this is at $1 billion a day. Even in the first week, a lot of people were suggesting that it was up around 2 to 3, if not higher, $1 billion a day. So just calculated by $1 billion, we're at $67 billion here. You know what I mean? It's just that's nowhere near the $25 billion that whoever the kid was decided to say inside of the congressional hearing that he had. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the, again, like the financial cost at a time in which, we were supposed to be pursuing policies that benefited Americans, not, Israelis. I just, I think that, we haven't even begun to see, the toll that it's going to take on American citizens and on American lives.
Dude, the rise in fucking prices, and again, you got a ton of people on the right trying to hang their hat on the fact that, like, we've seen higher at one point or another at one gas station across the country, at another, under other presidents. But the fact that it's rising as fast as it was, I think we just brought this up. Was it yesterday or the day before? And it was 422 as far as the national average. Like, we're already up to basically 440 now. Like, that's,
and you know what?
That's crazy.
Brian, like I'll say this to all those people back during the Biden administration that were like, I don't believe the figures. The Biden administration can tell me all they want that things are getting better, but they're not. I believe them. I believe them. I don't need to see these graphs. I don't need to see the figures, the numbers. I don't need to see any of that shit. I see it every single day when I go out of my house and, I fill up my gas tank, or I go to the grocery store, or, I purchase something wherever it is. I am acutely aware of what things are like financially in this country. And so is every American, unless you're a fucking billionaire. And then you don't feel these things. Plus you just got some huge tax fucking cuts by this administration. So, you're living on cloud 9.
Which goes to your earlier point of the people that are now coming out of the clouds, that are now seeing the light and how much they've been lied to. You know what I mean? The lady at the gas station. We've run a bunch of clips here of, construction companies down in fucking South Texas that don't have any work, can't find any workers, but they voted for Trump and somehow thought that they would be, safe. They'd be kind of on the outside of all the mass deportations and all the trouble that was going to come from that. Like, so I have trouble having the empathy, sympathy, or compassion for these fucking people. I will utilize their words, rightly so, to show people that people are breaking the spell to a certain extent. But the fact that it took this fucking lady, to have a short wallet, to not be able to fill her fucking gas tank after January 6th, after the 34 felony counts, after the grab him by the pussy, after all the fucking corruption, like, that didn't do it for this lady. You know what I mean? The noose and the gallows in front of the fucking Capitol didn't do it for the lady. But the fact that her fucking Velcro wallet didn't have enough money in it to fill her fucking, her Honda Civic or whatever the fuck, that was the eye-opening moment, right? That's what got her to see the lights. Like, what the fuck, like, how do I do this anymore?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, fuck her. I mean, that was my initial reaction when I saw that video. This is like, welcome to the party. But and the other thing too is this administration, if the facts don't support their messaging, they'll just lie to you. Right. I mean, they will just lie to your face, bold-faced lie, and say, like, that's not piss on your back. That's rain.
It is that bad though. Like, you make it sound like it's almost, people are gonna look at that and be like a joke, but if you look at it, it is that bad. You know what I mean? When they're telling us, I mean, pick your poison as far as this is concerned, but no, it wasn't us responsible for striking that girl's school in Iran. We weren't responsible for the 170 something, dead children, if not more than that. And then all of a sudden you find out, oh no, we definitely were, 100% were. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's just the discrepancies between, what Donald Trump was posting one day. Remember, he had like I think he had like 10 posts in 10 minutes or an hour or something. All of them being a lie as far as the Strait being open. Iran willing to give up their nuclear material, and the Iranian leaders were just like, none of that is true.
Right.
None of that.
Yeah, no, and I mean, listen to I got a lot of friends that obviously are active duty military and may or may not be called to serve in Iran, and so it's hard for me to support Iranian propaganda, but they are killing it with those fucking Lego videos, dude. They are just fucking destroying this administration with those Lego videos.
And again, it's not even proper. We just played one as because we were kind of hanging around while you were coming on to join us, and I was playing the latest Persia Boy, the Lego video, and it's like to my fucking and not to pat myself on the back again, but he did like one of my reels I reposted or video recorded one of his one of the Lego videos and posted it on mine. I tagged him in it to give him credit, but he liked one of the reels, so I was kind of like, oh shit, you know what I mean? But like at this point, it's not propaganda. Like, it's just real news stories. It's real shit that we talk about in this country. It's real problems that we face. It's real things that the administration is saying, doing, or lying about. You know what I mean? It's at this point, it's like I was saying to the audience, how is this propaganda? Tell me where the propaganda and the lies and like the obfuscation and the exaggerations actually lie, because I don't see really many. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, I mean, like, you take the headset video, like, he's actually a fucking drunk and an idiot. And, watching him be portrayed by a little Lego guy it's fantastic. I mean, it's so brilliantly done too, because Legos is a universal language. Not only that, but they're the guy's also getting around a lot of like the guideline violations that would come if he was trying to like really depict war scenes or missiles or hits on the children's school. Like, he'd be flagged for that a bunch. So it's like really fucking smart. And to find out that he's actually an Iranian American, behind at least the Persia Boy Hemat videos, he actually did an interview face out, which I thought was very bold of him to do. You know what I mean? Face out, just kind of giving his reasons as to why he's making the videos, kind of what thought goes into them, what he's trying to do. And, it's all very relatable. He's an Iranian American, doesn't agree with the pedophile class, doesn't agree with the fucking Epstein files being covered up, obviously doesn't agree with the illegal, unconstitutional war we're perpetrating and continuously enacting, and can see the side effects, the detriment to not only the United States, the Asian Pacific markets, the European markets, and spreading at this point in time because of the strait being closed, the people that depend on that strait for their goods, their oil, whatever else, you know what I mean? It's not just us. Like, we're all interconnected on this planet, which is another thing that I don't think Trump and MAGA understands. Like, we're so connected, whether it's, the economies, trade, militarily at this point in time. Like, we don't necessarily need to have to rely on the strait ourselves to have a huge impact, which is what Zelensky was saying in the Oval Office when he got screamed at. He said, just because you guys have a fucking ocean in between you doesn't mean that you're exempt from feeling pain. And he's been proven right time and time again in this instance. And it's even better that he gets to, serve up, or offer up his assistance in air defenses and with the mines in the Strait of Hormuz. It's kind of like a chef's kiss on the back end.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, listen, I'm all for focusing on domestic problems in America. I mean, we've got a lot of things that need to fix it. But this isolationist theory, which obviously was broken by Benjamin Netanyahu, ordering Donald Trump to attack Iran. The world has become incredibly small in the past several hundred years, and it's only getting smaller. And, our economy and pretty much every facet of American life is intertwined with, places all around the world. And I think that only makes us stronger, a better world. And, and I think that the facts are on my side, when it comes to that way of thinking. But pulling out, what we have done, and the sad thing is, I think that it's going to, the lasting effects are going to go beyond your lifetime and my lifetime, Brian. The distrust that we have sowed with other countries who, listen, when Donald Trump goes away, I've spoken with, foreign press and even foreign leadership, and the concern is that they can't trust the American people. It's not Donald Trump per se. It's that the American people chose this moron to represent us. And how can we put faith in a country that would elect such a fucking buffoon to lead them going forward? And that's going to play into every decision that they make until, Donald Trump is just a footnote in the history books. Again, like there are going to be lasting effects for this isolationist insanity that
right. I mean, especially as they're seeing these 100% polls being shown by like CNN for the like approval, favorability for the Iran war as far as the MAGA base is concerned. We play a lot of James O'Brien from LBC. We take a lot, we look at a lot of Al Jazeera, BBC to try to get like the outside perspective, to try to get outside of the United States mainstream media. Like, I'm not saying that, these other publications and different places don't have their sort of agenda, but typically you get a more direct, a more kind of straight shooting, no agenda having type of coverage when you look at people looking at the United States from the outside. You know what I mean? It's more refreshing to hear, and again, it's also dangerous and embarrassing to hear because of how they're laughing at us at this moment in time. But like you said, the fact that this is going to take quite some time to kind of repair on the world stage as far as NATO, economic trade partners, allies in general, because you're right. The fact that when Donald Trump croaks, and I've said this 1,000 times on this show, like this doesn't end. Like this fight doesn't cease to exist when Donald Trump takes his last breath on this planet. Like it has been so infiltrated, his hateful rhetoric, his fucking hateful ideology, and the ideology that follows him has been so ingrained and normalized and made kind of mainstream by this person, by this asshole, that it's not going to just all of a sudden cease to exist once he croaks. It's going to be, something that we're going to have to contend with for quite some time with all of these other assholes that are going to be left in Congress, in the Senate, and in otherwise that was supporting him for so long. So it's going to take a lot for us to, again, prove to our allies and other people on the world stage that we can be trusted to the degree that we were not that long ago. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, and people have to remember too, especially when people are getting exhausted, like I do from time to time, and when they feel like this is an insurmountable task. Democracy is an experiment. It's only 250 years old, a true democracy, which we have here in the United States, Democratic Republic. And it takes a tremendous amount of maintenance. I think over the past few decades, we've neglected it clearly, which is how we ended up with Donald Trump for president and for this MAGA movement to infect our politics, which is one of the reasons why, my biggest message is to people is, to be civically engaged and make that a part of your daily life. But people need to recognize the fact that, many of these things that we're fighting for right now, we may never see come to fruition in our lifetimes, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth the fight. I mean, I've got 4 children, 4 daughters, 10, 12, 14, and 23. And a lot of what I'm doing, if not most of what I'm doing, I don't believe that I will ever see the fruits of my labor. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to put the effort in because it's for them. And
you're planting trees you'll never get to experience the shade of, basically.
Right. But that's what makes America great. Look at all the people that lost their lives in the civil rights movement, who never got to experience freedom, never got to experience the right to vote, never got to experience the end of Jim Crow. But they still, went out there and they did the work, and there's still work left to be done. I mean, as the Supreme Court just let us know when they gutted the Voting Rights Act. We still have a lot of work left to do. And as of those of us who, are not from these vulnerable communities that are being attacked at this moment by this administration, I think we have more of a responsibility to stand up and speak out against the things that are happening.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely incumbent upon us to speak up, wherever and however we can. And again, like you said, it's about, leaving it better for the next generation and not being selfish enough to say, okay, if I'm not going to get to benefit from this, then what's the need, or what's the purpose of acting, or what's the purpose of fighting for it? Like, that's not the ideals that our country was founded off of. That's not how we became, to whatever extent you think we're a great nation, and not how we're going to, be able to move forward and progress the way that we want to progress. So, Mr. Fanone, I appreciate you for joining me, my friend. Host of the Michael Fanone Show. Like I said, almost 550,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Follow him on Substack as well, right? Why don't you just let everybody know all of the different socials and places that people
I'm on
can
all
help
the
you out and
socials.
support
I
you?
mean, primarily, so Michael Fanone Official on Instagram, TikTok, and then I've got my Substack, Michael Fanone on Substack, and then Michael Fanone Official on YouTube as well, the Michael Fanone Show.
Well, much appreciated, my friend. Like I said, we are the tiny show that keeps going, so I don't know how much assistance I can give you as far as getting closer to 550K, but I'll do my best. And again, if you could, send anybody over this way that, you may think that would like this content or anything like that, I would be happy. And like you were saying, just to kind of end this, like, I don't think anything really of worth or of import was gained without sacrifice, right? So sacrifices are going to have to be made, right? Like today, May Day. So a lot of people are choosing not to go to work or choosing not to buy the necessities that they may need today. Or, I've taken away the Venmo and told people not to send in super chats. And I know that's a small gesture, but I just don't want to come on here and, be talking about and reporting on other people, doing their part. Meanwhile, I'm contributing to Google and whatever the fuck that gets a piece of the super chats and shit. So, just in a small gesture, I feel like, like we were saying, nothing substantial is going to come without sacrifice, no matter how big or small that sacrifice is. So, Mike Fanone, I appreciate you for joining me. As always, you get the open invitation if you had anything that you need to promote, any shows, series, books, anything like that. You need a platform to get on and speak about it, or you just want to shoot the shit. The door is open for you, my friend. All right, I appreciate you. Sorry we didn't get the opportunity to kind of chat a little bit more at the Dropkick show on St. Patrick's Day, but I was surprised to see how many fucking people are up there. Like, when I heard it was the VIP, I was like, oh, good. I'll get to kind of chat with some people in a nice quiet section. I was wrong.
No. I mean, you think about it, everybody there is from Boston. They all got their families up there. And then, I mean, Dropkicks have been a staple in Boston for 30 fucking years.
Yeah, I should have known better. But it was good to see you for the brief second that I got to see you. Hopefully that's not going to be the last time. If you're ever going to be speaking in the in the Boston area or anywhere nearby, I'd be happy to come check you out and show up for support or whatever it may be, and grab a bite to eat or a beer or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? So appreciate you taking the time out, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you get to relax now. I think that's the 7th podcast in a row you've done.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Take it easy, my friend. Appreciate you again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Later, brother. All right. Michael Fanone. Appreciate him. Friend of the show. Always good to have him. Honored to have him on the show. What a great guy. Great insights. Great attitude. I feel like a really, zero fucks given. This is what we need to do. This is what we're going to do. This is how it needs to be talked about. So this is how I'm going to talk about it type of attitude, which we can really relate to here at Blunt Politics. So, make sure we get some W's for Michael Fanone in the chat going there, and make sure you're following him on all of his socials. And again, I feel really pretentious and stupid telling you guys to follow Michael Fanone. Chances are you don't follow me, but you follow him. So again, the back asswardsness of this whole thing is awesome, but the opportunity that we get to speak to these incredible people speaking up at a very important time is something that I cherish and that I appreciate. So thank you here in the chat, all of you guys, for making this possible, getting us to this to this point. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers, but we're getting there. We're slowly getting into the zeitgeist. We're getting into people's minds and emails, and people are responding and coming to chat. So I feel like we're on the right path. Maybe going a little bit slower than we all hoped, but again, we're not going to give up. There's no there's no quitting in this. So I appreciate you guys for supporting us. Hopefully there's nobody in there that was gifting, since I said not to. Oh, Jesus Christ, guys. You guys aren't very good at instructions, are you? You're not very good at instructions. No gifting, no super chats, but that's because you're so goddamn awesome. All right, I'll break this just this one time, and I'll say thank you to Deb so much for the 10 gifted memberships. Thank you to Marsha for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you to Bridget for being here for 12 months. See, that's good. That's good. The milestones I said we could do because there's no money exchanging hands or anything like that. So, Bridget, thank you so much for listening. Masha and Deb, we're going to get you back in the classroom because you didn't follow the instructions. You went straight to, question 9 and question 10. Meanwhile, question 1 said all you got to do is write your name and don't do the rest of the questions. See what happens? But no, I appreciate you guys. And then coming in late, I'm sure, was Shifty Lincoln. Thank you, Shifty. The only monarch we need is a butterfly. Love you, Fanone. Much appreciated for the support. Much appreciated for you guys coming over and watching the show, whether you're coming from, Hal's chat over there at the Sparklers. Again, whether you were from, Michael Fanone's community and decided to watch over here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Kyle. Oh, there we go. Kyle was a member. I was going to say, Kyle, I mean, for crying out loud, as I'm talking about it, you're going to throw it in there. But thank you so much again for you guys throwing in the milestones. And again, everybody that didn't listen to my instructions off the jump. All right, I'll see you guys. What's today? Friday. I'm going to see you guys Sunday for the main show. I'll let you guys out of here for today. Make sure you guys are supporting independent creators. Thank you so much for all of your love, all the support here. Check out the merch shop. Go to bostonbrian.com. That gives you all of the information, all of my social media platforms and accounts. That gives you the show schedule. If you're signed up at patreon.com, that'll give you the schedule for all of the Zoom meetings that we have for the upcoming month. And then also the link for the merch shop, which has fantastic merch. And I'll let you guys go. Go Bruins. Little pasta representing here. Hopefully they don't let us down tonight. Go Bruins. I know Marie's going to probably be in there saying go Sabres, but don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. Whose birthday? Happy birthday, Veronica. Oh, let's go, Veronica. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. That's the best I got. That's all you're getting from me. That's all you're getting from me. Come on, I'm working for free today. What do you expect? But happy birthday, Veronica. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the best chat ever. And once again, a huge thank you to Michael Fanone for taking the time out of his day, joining us. Great conversation. I'll see if I can get that cut up into some shorter clips. That way it's a little bit, more easily digested for everybody. So hit that like button on the way out. Happy birthday, Veronica, on the way out. Awesome to see you. There you are. I see you in there. You can't get away from us. Thank you, guys. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel on the way out. My name's Brian. This is Blunt Politics, and I'll see you Sunday. If you're not watching anything tomorrow, enjoy your day off. Take some time for yourself. Enjoy the sun if it's out where you guys are. Read a book. Take a walk. Walk your dog. I don't know. Do whatever makes you happy. Get your mind off of things. Adam's birthday today, too? Whose fucking birthday isn't it? Just tell me whose birthday it's not. How about that? Where's Adam? Where is he? Is he in here, the little pipsqueak? Come on, Adam. Adam, where you hiding in there? Are you in there, Adam? I see you. I don't see you, though. Where are you? Come on. Is this going to have to be like an off-site happy birthday? He can't spend his birthday in here with us? For crying out loud, Adam. Good Lord. What a bougie son of a bitch. I'm just kidding. We love you, Adam. Happy birthday, my friend. We appreciate you so much for everything that you've done for this channel and continue to do for this channel. We love you. We appreciate you. I hope you're well. Please stay in contact. Let me know if you need anything. W's in the chat for all of the birthdays. Apparently, I'm the only one that doesn't have a fucking birthday today. Evie's, yeah, come on. I'll allow it because it's not having to do with the game that I'm worried about tonight, but be careful here. Be careful. You don't want to get the boot. No, we love you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Who else? All right. I thought Tiff was giving me some more updates. Oh, hold on. I don't want to forget people. I forgot to see who was who broke my rules and decided to send over a Venmo. Looks like Roxanne did. Roxanne, come on. The whole point of today was to not do this. But I think you were the only one. And I love you. I appreciate you. Love you. Hi to Fanone. All right. I appreciate it. I'll let that one slide. But again, that was against the rules. That was against the instructions. Everybody knows that I said it at the beginning of the show. Everybody knows, just for the record. I said it at the beginning of the show. All good, Rox. All good. We love you. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And hit that like button on the way out. Thank you, guys. I'm out of here. I'll see you Sunday. You goobers. Bunch of fucking goobers in this chat, I'm telling you. Jesus, Luck Dragon. You won't be able to forget that one. Happy belated. We appreciate you. Thanks, Pops. Appreciate you, my friend. Love you. What is AUDHD? Is that gold? Is that gold ADHD? What's AU? Is AU silver? Or is that AG? AU is gold, right? Fuck, I gotta look that up. AU equals what? Yeah, gold. I knew it. Come on, I was right. I was second guessing myself. Second guessing myself. I got you. I thought you just meant you were golden. I feel like that's what Donald Trump would call his ADHD. Golden ADHD. Thank you, Tamara.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Thank you, Dame, for all the work that you do. Appreciate your support not only here, but all the work that you do over at Status Quo as well, brother. Very much appreciate it. Thank you. Like I said, I recognize you guys do all these other things for all these other chats as well. I'm not naive enough to believe that this is the only show that you guys watch. Tom and Victoria, much appreciated. Hopefully the weather's getting good soon here. Might not be that long before I can get out on the course. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Thank you, Vicky. Appreciate you. Thank you, Mark. Makes sense. That makes sense, Mark. That would clarify a lot, actually. Oh yeah, no worries, Tom. Good to see Victoria getting the recognition she deserves as well. Good to see Victoria. Please tell Victoria hello. Please give Chloe tweet me. Alright, I'll let you guys go. I love you. I appreciate all the respect in the world for all the fight that you guys have put up. Thank you for all the support and all the merch and stuff. You guys have been fantastic. Continue to be. I'll be here Sunday. You need the news. I'm Brian.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
We always do about this time.
Brian, you're drunk. You're drunk.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Where you going? Nowhere.
He says rectum damn near killed him. They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?